Welcome to the Cheers to Comic podcast. This week we're diverting from the norm a bit, and we are talking to a creator of actually a comic book or a webcomic that we talked to a few episodes back. I'm Brian Wayne. Unfortunately, Justin Jones cannot be with us on account of the massive blizzard. But from the creator, half of the creative team of The Wolf and Me, we have Sean Mullen. How's it going, Sean?
It's going great.
Sweet, man. Sweet. Well, I thought Justin and I enjoyed your webcomic so much, and then it just kind of worked out perfectly to where, you started production again, right? It was around the time that, we discovered it. And, yeah, no, it just feels like if there was ever a first opportunity for us to give like a creator corner type of situation, this was definitely my first pick for sure, man. So let's talk about The Wolf and Me.
Awesome, man. I feel honored. And just so you know, I figured since this is Cheers to Comics, I got a little Santa Barbara beer here, a craft beer, and it's a nice sour beer from Telegraph. So I'm definitely cheersing to comics today.
Oh, that's totally awesome. I actually decided to go with the liquor drink. I'm just drinking a screwdriver, but I am staying in tune, man. I'm staying in tune. That's for sure.
Hey, man, you gotta stay warm in that blizzard.
Oh, exactly. I mean, I just figured a screwdriver was the perfect drink for it.
Well, yeah, exactly. Sure. The Russians, that's their secret, man.
That's what I figured.
That cold weather, yep.
That's what I figured. So, The Wolf and Me, I just recently read episodes 7 and 8, along with your new formatted intermission episodes, which I gotta say, I enjoyed that very much. It was... It reminded me very much of like a Purge type of situation. It's just, I loved it, and I'm a big fan of the Purge, so I totally got that vibe from it. And just dark and gritty, and I love that you had to actually put the disclaimer at the beginning, like this is not us, like this is because I could immediately think without that disclaimer, you're like, oh man, these guys are pretty radical and blah, So yeah, no, it was very wise. Very wise to put that disclaimer in there.
Honestly, I kind of feel like we're the bad boys of webtoons. I don't think anybody else is doing the kind of stuff that we're doing, and so we're trying to cover those bases. We just like how we have the mature rating at the beginning. And we say like nudity, violence, even there hasn't been really nudity yet or anything like that. But yeah, same thing. I figured I'm like, you know what? This is a really touchy topic. Like we're talking about suicide here. So let's let them know like these aren't the way that we feel. We're talking as a character, completely separate us from it, and enjoy,
Oh yeah, no, it's it really is very separate from the majority of the stuff on webtoons, and that's, part of the reason why I praise it so much is with webtoons, and like I said in the previous podcast, I'm not a fan of Eastern style storytelling or art for the most part, and this just really grabbed me. And the fact that, it came from webtoons, where I usually don't go to get my webtoons anymore because I realize what the percentage is of, Eastern style storytelling. And that's why this totally stands out to me. It needs all the praise in the world. The art style is just, it's sporadic, but at the same time consistent, if that makes sense. It's consistently sporadic. Like, it's almost like there's a pattern to how it kind of goes about. And not necessarily the art style so much as the talk bubbles. And that's one thing I really want to talk about for sure.
Yeah, that's actually something based on the first, when you guys first reviewed our comic. One thing I wanted to let you know is, so there's a lot of thought that went into everything that we've done. And we kind of have like little Easter eggs and this and that, but so one thing that Davey did on his end with the artwork is each thought bubble, he wanted it to, since we're working without sound, right, and it's just you're reading a comic, he wanted to give each thought bubble a voice for each character. So now if you go back and you look and you realize when one person's talking versus another, you can tell who's talking once you pick up that we use certain styles for each character or set of characters. we switch it up. Like, so like the board has like their voice, and Nero has his voice, Jane has a voice, her voice, Joe has a voice. Like everybody has like their own distinguished kind of thought bubble and text, if that makes sense.
No, I totally get that, and it's amazing because I mean the thing that really stands out to me is like the texturing. Like
Yes.
Davey is clearly a master of digital art.
Oh yeah.
Knows. I mean, he just knows every single type of brush there is. Obviously, he's got it down because he's constantly flexing, and that's what I love about it. In episode, I believe it was 7, the attempted suicide when he jumps off the building, and that transformation, that
Yes.
fucking color palette and that brush stroke is so amazing, man. I had to grab my roommate. I was like, dude, look at this shit. Look at this. This is awesome. And yeah, no, and he had great things to say as well. I mean, he's kind of a comic book guy, but he's an artist, so I mean, he has an eye for what's good. And I judged his reaction, and it's a good. So,
yeah, no, that was all Davey, man. Like a lot of the episodes and such, I definitely, had my original view, and I wrote this all out before I even met Davey and started working with him. But that particular episode, he definitely used some things I had written out, but I kind of wanted to give him, like this episode, I wanted to let him do some stuff. And, it's definitely, it was about time. Like, it's time for a little, wolf action and whatnot. And he had this vision in mind, because I already told him in the beginning, like, so one of the ways that, we trigger the wolf coming out with Nero is if he's under threat or attack. So, and then I had this whole thing, well, like, maybe, he wants to kill himself. Like, he doesn't like living with this monster. So he's going to do the right thing and put himself out, or whatever. Anyways. So, yeah, like, Davey came up with this. I was just thinking, like, he would try and hang himself or shoot himself. But no, Davey came up with this badass idea of having him trying to, jumping off a building to kill himself and then slowly transforming into the wolf. And it turned out way better than, I even imagined it when he was first explaining it to me. And it kind of reminded me of, if you guys ever watch Mad Men, like that intro, Don Draper's slowly falling down and just falling like that. And I also thought, too, I was like, this is perfect because it kind of reflects, like, the whole story in the sense that, like, Nero's dealing with this affliction. He's got this beast within him and everything, and he's just slowly just falling down and losing control, and it's taking over. Like, there were so many, like, things about this, like, imagery that he put up that just completely capture, like, the comic and the story, at least especially with Nero's story. So I was like, this is perfect.
Oh, man. It almost makes me think, and I don't mean to say this in a negative way at all, it almost, just based off how different this art is, it makes me wonder if Davey is actually, has he read comics before? Because it's just so different. Usually when you're a reader or whatever, you tend to kind of like, as a new artist, you're able to pinpoint a style. Like, I could tell who he was, inspired by them. I can't figure out who this guy's inspiration could be. I really can't. Is he a comic fan before this?
He's a comic fan, but he's the one that he definitely is a bigger fan of, like, webtoons. And Jason Brubaker is a big artist that he follows and really likes, and he learned a lot from that guy's style. Right. And Jason Brubaker does some webtoons and whatnot. So Davey's the one that kind of steered me in the direction of, like, when I found him, he's like, hey, let's do a webtoon. And I was like, oh, okay, like, sure. And then I did some research, and, we worked on it together, and I realized, I'm like, wait a minute, webtoons is like, it's almost like the YouTube of comics. I mean, some of these people they have millions of subscribers and views, and I'm like, there's something here. And then also, too, you're putting all this time and effort into creating something, and let's say we were making a traditional comic as an indie artist, like, we could end up with a lot of inventory that we never sell, and we could end up going further in the hole. But with webtoons, it's like, it's all done digitally. So we can do that first, build an audience, and then if we wanted, we can transition into printed works or something like that without taking such a big risk.
And that's actually the motto. A lot of old school artists would they would being that I went through webtoons myself and used to be a creator. I know exactly what you're talking about, and a lot of traditional artists and old school like spit on that. But I tell you what, that is the most brilliant marketing technique you could do, because it's perfect. You build the audience, you give it to them for free. You give them
Yep.
something to anticipate every week, and the more you put out, and you guys are putting out content weekly, that's amazing. So they don't have to wait long. It's easier to build the audience. Yeah, no, I totally agree. Webtoons is totally the way to go. And that's part of the reason why I chose this one to do, or you as a creator to go first, is because I want to get the idea of webcomics out more. It's just, I think it's just not discovered enough in the West. And I think if it took off in the West, then it would release this plethora of artists and storytellers that have just been like chomping at the bit to get their amazing stuff out there. And I know there's thousands of undiscovered brilliant stories out there because I've worked with a few of them. So I've read this, The Wolf and Me, like this is proof. You can do this in the West and, be a webcomic. So I'm very, very glad. I think it's just like fate that, you hit us up. I don't even know how you found us at this point. I don't even care. I'm gonna call it the universe making things happen, man.
Hell yeah.
So let me ask you this. You decided to go with the theme of a werewolf.
Right.
How long have you been working on this story? Was this just something where you're kind of like spitballing as you go? I mean, I could tell that you've clearly got some love into this, but like, how much of this is this a completed story that you just need to tell at this point? Is this like your
So
okay?
I started this. It's been over 2 years now where I started writing this thing, and I originally started writing it as kind of like a film script. And then I started writing it in the sense of I wanted to create it for a comic, but I was thinking I wanted to make one big book, do like a one and done kind of like thing. But then over time, I've been slowly like, well, you know what? I could do 3 of these books. I have 3 separate arcs or stories that I could do at least. And you could also do like spin-offs with a lot of these characters. And next week, we're going to introduce even more characters. We can get back to that later. But basically, yeah. So as far as like the writing and the story, it's been brewing for a long time. And one of the things that drew Davey to working with me and drew him to me is, and he could tell, like, is that, I put a lot of myself in this story as well, but not in like a narcissistic or like egotistical kind of way. But I mean, I drew from some of my own life experiences and whatnot. Like the first episode, it opens up with like, Nero in his bed and he's asleep and he's snoring like a wild animal, and I snore like a beast. I mean, I literally rattle the walls. Like, I mean, and it's something I've dealt with since I was like 12, 13 years old, like a little kid. And it's kind of, I've almost felt like, I was kind of a shy and quiet kid growing up, but then I have this loud thing where when I'm sleeping, it's like this, like, it's almost like there's this animal in me that wants to get out and just scream. And, so like, that's where I started building this, and I came up with some of these ideas. So,
all right. So this animal, is this where the idea of the werewolf comes from then, kinda? Or
definitely.
Awesome. Dude,
yeah.
That's so cool that you could, going off just like life experience is so subtle. Like, who would have thought like a snore at night could turn into the wolf in me? Like this is amazing.
I know, man. It's crazy. And the other thing is too is I really feel like, werewolves haven't had enough love. There's definitely vampires have had a lot of love and zombies are getting a lot of love. And there have been times, I mean, so one thing is like, one of the things I kind of borrowed, or somebody could say I stole, but I got the idea from, having like Jane, who's the ghost that's attached to Nero, and also Joe. It comes from American Werewolf in London. That idea where, like, because he has to deal with the people that he kills, they come back. The difference is, though, is in American Werewolf in London, they show up how they were first killed, and then they slowly deteriorate and get worse and worse. But I didn't want to do that. I wanted them to be kept in their form of how they were killed, and I didn't want them to slowly deteriorate or anything. I wanted them to be like left in that form. So, but I got that idea from American Werewolf. So anyways, back in that time, I think that's like a 90s movie. Werewolves had a little bit of love, and Jack Nicholson had, but like, and then I know, obviously, in more recent times, I think, Twilight, the books came out in the movies, but that's vampires and werewolves, also Underworld. But always, every single time that werewolves were around, usually it was like vampires and werewolves, and the werewolves were second.
Yep.
So I just feel like werewolves, it's this thing that I feel like hasn't had a good enough of a shot. Like, vampires have been doing well, and they have their own storylines. Zombies, obviously, Walking Dead, there's so much zombie stuff.
Man,
it's oversaturated, like that market. It's definitely getting beaten, but there's not enough werewolf, especially right now. I may not be the one to do it, but somebody's going to come out with a great werewolf story and maybe spring forth a bunch of other little werewolf stories. Like, who knows? I just feel like the market, I'm looking at it, there needs to be a good werewolf story. And I like the whole Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde aspect of werewolves. Like, you have one side and another, and they're not connected. Right now, like, Nero's not conscious when he's a werewolf. It's a whole nother entity that lives within him. And that's how I want to keep it. Like, I like the whole yin and yang, you got to have two separate sides.
Totally, and that's the part of the aspect of the werewolf that I totally enjoy the most. It's not the brutality by any means. It is the, like you said, best, you put it best with the Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde aspect, like the multiple, worlds, fighting. It's like the Bruce Banner Hulk kind of situation a little bit.
Definitely.
Yeah,
no, 100%.
But yeah, no, it's the way you tell it, you don't make it seem like it's a cliche. Like, you're not just telling a story. Like, there's clearly an art to your storytelling as well, and that's one thing that's got to be praised. Like, it's visually stunning, that's for sure. But it also takes an artist of a writer to lay out those beats for the artist. But beyond that, like the dialogue and the pacing of everything, the pacing is awesome. There are times where you just get like this whole stream of light, like, and you use the blank space to tell stories. It's incredible. I love it. I don't know, man. I can't say enough about this.
Hell yeah. Thank you, man.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Let's circle back to something you said we would circle back to, some new characters. We got Will in this last one. And Will was immediately dope. I think I even commented. I was like, please don't kill Will. Like, he was just so cool. Like, he's like, if this were a Polinick movie, like if this were Fight Club, like, that's Brad Pitt. Like, that's how I see like. And you almost, and it's fun. I brought up Polinick. I was thinking about that earlier as I was reading it. Like, you almost tell like a Polinick type of style that way, kind of goes back and forth and like, but it's not too mind bending. If you know it. It's not to the point where like, oh shit, how much attention do I really need to be paying? Like, it still flows very nicely. So, but yeah, no, it's the when Will came in, I was like, damn, this confirms. Like, this totally reminds me of like a Polinick type of story. It's just the way he just showed up on the couch or in the bed. What's he doing, laying in the bed or something like that? But he's just chilling, watching TV, and then you get like two different stories. Of like, but this isn't. I don't want to give anything away. I want everyone to read this. But oh man, no,
that's definitely. It's funny that you mentioned that. So Chuck Palahniuk is a huge influence, and again, going back to kind of like with like Jane and Joe. And just talking about the people that are in Nero's life because of they're these ghosts that haunt him that he killed as the wolf. I like that. I always like that idea, and I like that storyline because that's the thing. When I was first in the early phases of creating this thing, I was like, okay, so what is Nero? He doesn't like being a werewolf. He doesn't like killing people. So what's he going to do to avoid that? Well, he's going to isolate himself from the rest of people and try and stay away from people. But if I just have a man living by himself, like, that's boring. If those early scenes and everything else, it was just him by himself, like, what are you going to do? So I kind of brought in that Chuck Palahniuk type, Fight Club. Like, it's a perfect example. Like, you got to create some imaginary friends to come along for the ride.
Oh, yeah, man.
Yeah, so.
Well, at this point, like, I realize that I don't have a grasp on this, and I mean that in the best way. Like, let it just keep, like, surprising me with shit, spewing shit out. I love it. I thought like, okay, this is who we're following now. Then you throw in Will. I'm like, oh shit. Will obviously isn't as simple as it is. There's no ways.
So
yeah.
back to Will, yeah, because you brought him up. In not next week, but the week afterwards, our episode 10, which the actual, because there's only 10 so far real episodes. The other stuff in between, there was teasers, and then now our little Thursday bonus thing. But so episode 10, you're gonna find out who Will is, and it's all been building up to this point of like, from the beginning, at least, and this is not, I mean, the story by episode 10 is nowhere near, like, I mean, this is like, it would be like the first, like, probably 15 or 30 minutes of a film, it's like the beginning, like, but basically, Will's a pretty pivotal part of Nero. This whole thing with Jane that was going on in the beginning, Nero was telling her, like, I can fix this, I can, like, he wants to help, the situation, and so Will's going to play a big role in that, without spoiling things or giving too much away. So this is, getting to Will is pretty important, but now there's a whole other thing, and I mean, you're going to want to, obviously talk about this, like, when it happens, but when you realize who Will is, it's also very important. And it's going to be fun. Yeah.
Oh, you got me so excited. I noticed you keep bringing up film and relating it to film, and there's a certain visual aspect to this that had me wondering. Specifically episode 7 starts out in like a film strip type of style. Is there a pattern to that, or is that Davey just kind of like rewinding or like recapping the last whatever or the last happening since it was back from break? I feel like that's not the first time I saw the film strip.
It's not.
Okay.
One of the things that we did, kind of to stand out and just our own little thing is, so we're like, okay, we're creating a webtoon, right? This isn't just a regular comic, and it's not just a comic online. We want to we wanted to kind of make it like a TV show or something. And so what we did was we started off each episode after the beginning episode, we had like a previously on, the Wolf and Me type of thing that you would see if you were watching a weekly TV show, you would tune in and they would have the like previously on, and then they would kind of like give you a little recap and then go into it. So that's what we did. Like the film strip part, he purposely puts that in there to separate where the previously on is from then what's the new content. So it kind of stands out. Yeah.
That's brilliant, man. I love that.
And then again, like what you're saying, the whole film thing too is, I feel like, and especially that episode and this next episode, you're going to notice, I feel like this comic is very cinematic. Like, Davey's a fan of, let's like Stanley Kubrick, for instance, and people like that who really make these very cinematic. They take these very cinematic shots, like, and so even when the car is just driving along, Davey purposely wanted to zoom out really far and give you like a shot of the landscape and just kind of really build and make this comic or this webtoon feel very cinematic. We're pretty much selling the idea of like, hey, I mean, you could be watching this like, as like a TV or a movie kind of thing.
See, and that kind of takes me back, or circles me back around to, I don't think that this comic visually is based off of other comics. It's like he clearly has an eye for media, that's for sure.
Yeah.
It's just, it's like he's, what do they call it when they're doing the movie thing, not a timeline, but a storyboard. Yep. Like it's just a storyboard as if Stanley Kubrick were shooting a movie. I like how it's brilliant, man. It really is. It's such a different type of art you're bringing to it, because most people, they look at art as just the lines on the whatever. They're not looking at the angles or the shots or anything like you would a film student would look at a movie. Even a comic book artist, or not a comic book artist, a comic book fan, they're not judging panels and stuff like that. But when you bring that aspect to the table, it raises the bar for all of the other pros out there. Like, holy shit, this guy's doing this. Like, oh, maybe I should try working from these type of artistic angles and everything, and tell more of a story from, this point of view instead of, relying on this or whatever. I don't know. I think Davey does an amazing job of, he could almost tell this story without dialogue. Almost. He just does such a good job of capturing the moment. I love it. It's perfect.
I'm very thankful to have found him and be working with him. And one of the things that drew us together was some shared interests outside of comics, like Tarantino and things like that. So again, film stuff. And I realized, right off the bat, like, especially people who are close to me and know me, when I started showing them this comic, they're like, Davey does a good job of like drawing and translating our story into, like he takes these words and I feel like he does an image version of the way that I would want to, if I wasn't a writer, like this is the way that I would want to draw kind of thing, or this is the way the story would be. Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of weird. I think I'm like.
I know exactly. I think everyone knows what you're saying.
I'm like having trouble articulating this. So.
I sense your excitement, man. I think you're just stoked that someone noticed it, and I totally get it. No, and
we're on the same page. Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
That's so awesome. So what got you into comics specifically? Like what decided, you had this story you wanted to tell, what made you decide that comics was going to be the medium? Like, or not even necessarily like, were you into comics before? How much were you into comics before? Let's start with that question.
So before I even wrote a single page, and I'm talking more than 2 years ago, obviously, this is further back, I did a lot of reading and researching, and I got into, and I discovered comics, but I didn't go the traditional route of like, let's see what's going on in Marvel or DC. I went for Warren Ellis, Transmetropolitan.
Oh, dude, all right, we can totally have beers together, man. Like that's my shit.
And then let's go even further. This is I don't know how many people know about this, but Grant Morrison, The Invisibles, and this is a storyline that, like, I have, the 5 volumes. Obviously, I wasn't following it when they were coming out issue by issue. It's an older comic, but and it's completed now. But anyways, that, like, those kind of type of comics, and then also Image, obviously, discovered Image because of The Walking Dead and things like that. But then the Image, I feel like, pushes some boundaries. But anyways, to circle back, the reason I got into comics and why I wanted to work in that realm is I felt like, I was just, with other TV movies and other entertainment, I felt like people had gotten to a point of like formulaic or just following trends, or like this, you're only like, whereas I discovered these comics and I realized that there was this whole other way of storytelling that was completely, like, it almost seemed like there was no rules, or just people would take risk or talk about things that it just seems so, I don't know, it just seems so raw and fresh versus, anything else that I'd ever gotten into. And then also, ideally, obviously, I'd write like a book and put it out, but I just feel like not enough people read books these days. So, like, you need to have those pictures. So comics ultimately is like, it's the way to go. And I love this format, and I love writing in comics because I feel like there's a lot more freedom. There's a lot less moving parts. There's a lot less money involved. So there's a lot less restriction on what you can or can't do.
And it's you have that whole visual aspect to help tell your story too at the same time. I personally believe that comics are the greatest form of entertainment out there, and just because of everything you could do. And you don't need noise with a comic, because a good story, you hear the voices. It's up to the writer to develop a voice, and it's up to the artist to create the tone and the feel of what you're reading and all that. You don't need a score or an actor, an actor's voice to be able to do that. And I think that's why comics are so much more. It takes so much more talent to make a great comic than it does a good movie, and it takes hundreds, sometimes 1,000 people to make a movie. But there are comics out there that are done with just 1 or 2 people. You know, and that's why I think comics are the most underappreciated piece of medium out there. And the fact that, you know, at times where it's, you know, people are rumoring the threat, you know, that no more comics, or, you know, that's, of course, that's all bullshit. But to me, that would be the most devastating thing in the world. It's just because all of these artists are so undiscovered, and writers, you know, I think they're the most talented out of all of them. And, you know, it makes me sick when you go to like Comic-Con and stuff like that. You know, you got Chris Evans charging $100 for a signature, but meanwhile, you know, freaking, I mean, any given artist, you know, anyone, $5 is free signatures or whatever, but without them, you know, there is no Chris Evans and doing Captain America and all that. It's just, it's such an underappreciated medium, and this being even like an even more indie class of, you know, the version being a web comic. It needs to be discovered. We need to get this stuff out, man. And this is true gold right here. It really is. This is how you tell a Western comic book, man. This is the best Western indie web comic I can honestly say this I've ever read. It's incredible.
Thank you very much, man. That means a lot.
Yeah.
And one thing, yeah, because you brought this up before, but so last year, 2018, Webtoons has slowly been starting to push for and capture more of a Western audience. And so they had Stan Lee before he passed, but I mean, his name's on it. I don't know how much involvement he had, but Stan Lee's name is on a comic that's on Webtoons. Common, the rapper, did a sound score for one of the Webtoons. And that's another thing. So if you get featured, you can have like kind of a GIF images, like a little bit of animations and such, and you can have sound. And the Stan Lee comic utilizes both of those very well. So it's worth checking out. I feel like the story of that comic is not amazing or incredible or groundbreaking, but like they do a good job of showing you like all the cool toys and the bells and whistles that could be like how you could play with this format. And honestly, if we ever, you know, had those resources, like it's just mainly, you know, money and time, I would love for, and then also I guess we'd have to be featured because you can't do it otherwise on Webtoons, but like we would love to, you know, animate some scenes and like really take advantage of like, hey, this is on a computer or a computer-like device, you know, a smartphone, a tablet. It doesn't need to be static. It doesn't, you know, we could have it a little fluid. We could utilize a little bit of sound or a little bit of animations, but, you know, subtly. Like you could slowly maybe as you're scrolling down, like maybe there's an image and like slowly the eyes light up or something. Like you don't need to, you know, go overwhelming and have it taking forever to load or whatever, but you could definitely have some fun. Anyway, so then the Stan Lee comic has some cool animations and such. And then Warren Ellis, who I mentioned earlier, he has a comic on Webtoons. And then James Maddox has probably my favorite Webtoon so far. It's called Metaphorical Her. And so anyways, a lot of Western talent is getting involved in bigger, you know, big names, and maybe they'll be the ones to help branch out and make Webtoons more popular, you know.
Well, or maybe you guys, because like I said,
that would be awesome, man.
This is awesome. We need to get you guys to that 3,000 subscribers. Webtoons start paying you a little bit, and then from there, you know, it all rolls in from there. You know, get that momentum going. So yeah, no, we're gonna encourage everybody. I'm gonna put up, you know, in the description. We're gonna have the Webtoons address and the Patreon. The Patreon's big.
Oh, so, and one thing, because Webtoons, they're so annoying, and I tried contacting them and talking to them about this, but for whatever reason, they won't give you a webtoons.com/thewolfandme. Like they won't give you an easy link. They just have that long like /en and like. So one thing I did was I took changeaphilia.net, which is a website that I had, and I just made that reroute directly to Webtoons. So cool. I created a simple, easy way to direct that traffic, and I guess that's what we're going to have to do from, you know, is like find something like that, and yeah.
Right on. Yeah, I use something called like tinyURL or whatever. I just input it in, and it takes a massive thing, and it just turns it into like 9 random characters, but it's just like tinyURL.9 random characters, and that's it.
Perfect.
So, yeah, no, that's usually what I do. But yeah, no, I seen the change affiliate or whatever that you'd been using lately. So yeah, man. Well, shit. What else? What else is there to talk about The Wolf and Me without giving anything away? I know I know that the big things I wanted to talk about were the talk bubbles, that's for sure. The textures. One of these days we're gonna do this again, like once you guys get a few more episodes out. When you guys get to like 3,000 subscribers, we're totally gonna have another interview, and I want to get Davey on here too.
Of course. That would be awesome.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
Um, one thing I will mention. So, today as we're having this conversation, it's March 13th, and tomorrow will be March 14th, obviously. So it's a Thursday, and we're gonna release one of those new bonus episodes. Now,
that's what I wanted to talk about. Yeah, the bonus episodes, totally. Let's get on that.
So,
go ahead.
The bonus episode tomorrow is one that I'm definitely I want to advertise the hell out of and get people's attention, because one of the things that we're going to tackle, and I've been seeing a lot of this talk recently, so I'm going to have the board behind the scenes, so they're not addressing the public. This is their private meetings, and they're going to talk about how they use influencers and social media and things like this to take advantage of and manipulate the public and control the public and this and that. And one of the things they're going to tackle and specifically address is the whole like anti-vaxxer movement. People that believe in anti-vaccines. And I've been really excited for this to release because I keep seeing more and more things about anti-vaccines, or the anti-vaxxer movement or whatever. I'm like, this is a really relevant, fun little thing to like kind of find a good way to show you guys show people another angle of like, maybe to get them to think more about what's going on with things like that and flat Earth and these other things. Like, you guys are, people are being manipulated with these things, and so
that's awesome, man. I love the new content and the at least the last mid episode that you did. And I don't want to I really want people to read it, but it's just it just reminds me of like how the Purge, they're describing like this is what's gonna happen, bitches, and blah blah. Like it's just so and for you to touch on a subject that heavy, and that matter, that's, to me, being the dark person that I am, like, I found it hilarious. I really did. And I mean that in the best way. Like, I still found the horror in it, don't get me wrong. But I loved it so much.
That's one thing that bothers me, man, is like, people need to realize that we're allowed to have dark humor and see like a dark side to life and humor and laugh about it, but that doesn't mean you're an evil or bad person. Like, not everybody who has dark humor. I mean, I am completely, I'm a total nerd. I am not a violent person. I've never been in a physical fight in my whole entire life. Like, and I have problems even killing a bug. Like, if like a spider appears in my bed, that's when I have to kill it, because otherwise I'm not going to sleep. But other than that, like, if I can capture a bug and safely put it outside, I will. So I'm totally all about all life deserves a chance to live. And that's like, all living things have a right to live. And I'm that kind of person, but still I can tackle violence and do that for entertainment and have this dark, twisted sense of humor. That doesn't mean that I'm a violent person or I want to kill people, or like, and people need to separate the two and realize that you're allowed to have that. And I think people are just, with like things like mass shootings and all these other things going on in the world, people are so scared and they don't know what to do to stop these things or control it, that they're worried. And so like, maybe somebody along the lines was like, well, hey, serial killers or mass shooters or these types of people, they have this dark sense of humor, and that's a dangerous thing. It leads to like, or whatever. So maybe that's where these things slowly got to the point where people started getting scared or whatever, being worried about having, but we need to, hopefully it's just a phase, and these are extremes that we go through but like, people need to realize, I don't know. I mean, on the same subject, like my own freaking dad, even when he was reading my comic, Like he's like, I'm glad that you're getting these things out so you don't, go and do these things or something. I don't know. He even like said something in a way where I was like, do you not understand? This is art. It's separate from like, it's not me. I'm creating a story. I'm having fun with it, but it has nothing to do with, I don't know. So like even my own parent having the trouble separating the two made me a little like, what is going on,
Yeah, no, and it's just it really has a lot to do with, I think, kind of where we've come as a society. And once again, comics can be a medium to maybe help divert that a little bit. It worked for the X-Men, where they did it great with the social justice and all of that good stuff. So why can't the form of telling a dark story and then proving yourself as a human to be a good person be proof that it is just storytelling, but at the same time you can get a message out there, whether or not the message directly relates to you. That the message relates to someone, and it's going to touch someone. More not even necessarily relate to them. Maybe it'll open their eyes to help them relate to someone else or whatever. And it's but you can't necessarily place the artist in the story. You can't always do that. And yeah, no, I get what you're saying there. And it kind of sucks that it's harder to tell this type of story without worrying about the judgment that's going to be passed upon you as a human. Just because you're using this type of story to tell a story that really needs to be told. Like especially after episode 7 and 8, you clearly see that this is a story about suicide. This isn't a story just about a werewolf that likes to rip boobies off. It's so much more than that. And yeah, no, I really, and it's all the more reason I totally recognize you, brother. I do. I recognize what you're doing here, man. And I think it needs talked about. And I'm hoping that this episode gets a trillion fucking downloads so that everybody knows what The Wolf in Me is, man. I really do. I love this. You and Davey are killing it, man. You guys are. You're killing it. So we're gonna post this tonight, and then tomorrow we're gonna have an intermission episode. That's what we have to look forward to, an intermission episode, correct?
Yeah. So tomorrow's Thursday. When we're live and we're in the phase that we're in right now, Mondays are Moon Days. Haha, werewolves. Is when we release a new episode, and then Thursdays is when we used to do teasers. And I was, I've never been a fan of like trailers or teasers or things like that because sometimes it gives away too much.
I've recently given up trailers. I used to be a trailer junkie. I've recently given them up just for that reason.
Yeah, I get it. Like you need to market your product. You need to get people in there. Not everybody is gonna, I'm the kind of person, like, I know who I like and what I like, and I'll go and check out what they have to offer. I don't need to see these. But anyways, so this new Thursday format isn't, it's so Mondays and Thursdays. Yeah.
Sweet, man. I'm so excited. So you got content weekly, man. All right, guys, there's lots to be excited for. This is is there anything else that you wanted to get out there, man? Get it all out. We got plenty of time. Yeah. I'm not trying to rush you off by any means. I just think I got all my questions out, that's for sure. At least that has to do with The Wolf in Me. There's still parts of your brain I want to pick, but I don't think they're really relevant to the story. I'm not going to lie.
You're always welcome to. I'm an open book, man, so if you want to pick my brain, feel free.
Right on.
One thing I will say is, as I mentioned earlier, there are a lot of like little clues, Easter eggs, and things hidden in this comic, and especially like in the writing. One thing I'll give an example of is the prologue. That little thing that kind of seems like it's sporadic and random, and it goes through and touches on a lot of things at once, and then comes into the whole werewolf thing. And some people also are like, one of the negative feedback comments we got was like, this is very heavy-handed, storytelling. And the reason why, I mean, you need to know is it's a person's voice, not my own voice, not anybody else, not somebody that's writing. It's a fictional character's voice that's telling that prologue. But in that prologue, again, I wrote it after I completed the story. It quickly goes through and highlights and kind of shows a lot of what the story is about. On a surface level, it kind of lets people know just how much we're willing to kind of push boundaries in terms of things and what we're going to talk about, but also too, there's a lot of hints and clues in there, and just throughout the whole story. And even though we have a small audience, like, I still get really into and have fun with things. Like, when we first introduced the board, who you're talking about from last Thursday's episode, and they reminded you of the Purge and such. When we first introduced them, what we did is we had our webtoon and our Facebook. The board took over both those things. Like, the images for our profile and our cover story image, like, we changed them all, like, as if the board had kind of hijacked our account and they were controlling things and releasing, like, propaganda. And we even had them write some things that came out. Like, there was something that came out, it was like just landed on a Thanksgiving. That was the Thursday. And so that's when we first transitioned away from teasers. And that was totally like the board was in control of this comic and telling the story. And even when we wrote, like, in the comments during those times, like, we were speaking like as if we were the board. So we kind of do these fun things, like, where we kind of take the story out of the story and into the real world and play around a little bit. And nobody may never even notice these things, but, like, because we have a small audience. But still, I just want to have some fun and push some boundaries and whatnot and play around. So.
Oh, I love it. It's the fact that you're creating art outside of the story. It's just it just proves the art of storytelling is so much more than, it's way more than black and white. That's for damn sure.
Yeah.
You clearly you're very passionate about what you do. There's no doubt about that. The fact that you're having so much fun. You're telling a story through marketing. Like, that's brilliant. That's showing love for what you do. And the fact that your artist is, he's cool with it. Tells me that he appreciates your story. That's for damn sure. We got to get you guys paid, man. We got to get Webtoons giving you money. That's for
Yeah. The main thing is, like, honestly, the main thing is I want to get us featured or get enough money circulating in so that Davey can go full time. And that'll only increase, like, our output time and whatnot. It'll give us those resources to be able to create, at a faster rate. Because, it takes a while. Like, I know right now we're releasing weekly episodes, and we were a little bit before you guys found us. But there was a 3-month gap there. And then before that, like, there was months, like, this comic takes a while to build. We can't, we're releasing live because we have enough stocked up to slowly release.
Right.
But we don't, once after a couple episodes, like, we're going to have to, we need another time to recoup. And so it's all getting featured and everything will just allow us to go full time, allow Davey to go full time. And that's my main thing, is just trying to get him enough money so he can go full time and we can keep churning out content. Cause I have another story too. Davey has some stories, like, if we went full time, man, we would just keep churning out content. And that's mainly the goal. That's why. So we can.
Goddamn right, that's the goal. I mean, if you guys are putting out this stuff as your first project, they always say your first project's your worst project. Just imagine from here, man. Like, this is. I'm very, very excited to see what Sean and Davey create from here on out. That's. We got to get the Patreons rolling in too, man. I know that could help quite a bit.
That's a good point. This is our first webtoon together, so we've learned a lot. And you'll notice, like, if you just even look at the episodes we have, Davey even, like, himself says this all the time, so I know I can say this without stepping on toes or hurting any feelings. Like, the art's gotten better. It's gotten, it's also, I've noticed too, it takes a little bit longer for him to make the episodes. Like, he's putting more into it. Like, but we've definitely learned a lot. And also, as I said before, I wrote this story before I ever knew it was going to be a webtoon. So it's kind of, I learned a lot from that too. Like, I have another script that I've been working on, and it's been written now knowing how to write for the format of webtoon. And so that's another thing too. We're learning a lot, and we're growing. So if you guys are enjoying things now, it's only going to get better. And that's the thing. We don't want, I definitely don't want to be something. I hate anything I get into where it starts off great and it just goes downhill and you get invested into it, and it sucks to slowly see it. Like, it's not going to be like that with us. We are only getting better. We're only learning more. We're constantly trying to figure out ways to improve, and we're getting better and better at working with these tools. And yeah, this is our first webtoon, but even just within the couple months that we've been putting this out, I think we started last October or August. You can check on Webtoons; it has the first published date. I feel like we've gotten better since then. We really are figuring things out and learning how to tell the story.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Every episode, just you continuously see improvement. Like it all shows. It's like even specifically the biggest. I'd say the biggest thing, wow factor for me, besides the transformation in episode 7, the next step for me in episode 8 was the talk bubbles coming from the TV that Will's watching. That static type of, that is dope, man, and it just it totally brings a tone to what's going on. Like it's brilliant. It is, and it goes to show from episode 7 to episode 8. Like you see, like, oh shit, he's gonna flex this muscle. He's gonna flex this muscle, and oh man, it's awesome. And the story is just it's continues to, like, every aspect is like, oh shit, you're just adding more to this. This is awesome. This is so much more than I thought it was gonna be. And yeah, no, it's like, and it just proves that your point of, yeah, and no, it is continuously growing. So imagine, listeners, when this is all done, what do you have a timeline? Do you think, like, ideally, if you were to continue on this, like, on the pace you are now, how long do you think it would be before the story's complete, or is that not something you want to reveal yet?
I would say I can't reveal that because I don't want to add any extra pressure on Davy's pacing. But
Gotcha.
I will say this, is that, like, each season of Webtoons that we're kind of like shooting for our seasonal end, I guess, is around like 10 episodes or so. So we're about to hit episode 10 in a couple of weeks, and that'll be the end of season 1. But that's not nowhere near the end of this story. I mean, we have enough content, and because, again, I wrote the story before I even wrote it for Webtoons. Like, it's a book, it's a novel, and it's just getting started. Like,
I guess that would answer my question,
yeah,
as far as, like, the length goes. Like, this is
like
a novel length. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. I really feel like episode 7 really starts, like, it's just it kind of around that mark is where people really start, like, okay, understanding where the story's going. But then, the next episode that's coming out next Monday, it's gonna, kind of circle back to the beginning, and you'll see how, while also introducing some new characters, but, like, we're just slowly kind of, really, if you think about it, like, from episode 1, kind of like, if you want to break it down to, like, character and his goals and whatnot, the first thing is Nero wakes up, and finds Jane, and he, this situation's going on. I guess I'm kind of being a little vague, not to spoil, but, right. And so it's all about, like, how can he help and fix the situation, or, that he's now in because of this thing that he lives with. And so that's starting that journey, and you're going to learn, like, how and what he has to do that, and then other things are going to be happening along the way because, we got other characters that have other things in mind and whatnot. Yeah.
Oh, man. Oh, this is so exciting, man. And well, just think, it's just hours away. We get to read more in just hours from now.
Yes. And this is... And you said that you like the Thursday format, and, like, I feel like this is one of my more favorites, if not my favorite one. I feel like it's pretty relevant, and it'll be really fun. So yeah, this is definitely one to get hyped on. I don't feel bad about overhyping it.
Oh no, don't, because, like I said, it's just improvement from here on out, and that last one was dope. That flag design was fucking awesome, man. That's so cool. That was so cool. Like, I can't wait to see what type of stuff you throw out at us this time.
That is one thing I can take credit for, is that whole flag. That was my I gave a lot of notes to Davey on that. Of course, he had the final say and created it, but, like, I had this vision of that that flag in my head for the board and everything, as well as their slogans. Our kills matter,
Yep.
which.
Yep. Oh yeah. Nope. I see
So
where you're
yeah,
going.
yeah.
I love it
So
because
yeah.
it's you put these relevant social topics in there and you still make it fun, and at the same time you still kind of like create this edge factor without trying to be an edgelord.
Exactly.
It's incredibly paced, man. Like I said, I can't. I'm not tugging your dick on here. I really do love this fucking book, man. Or this story. Will it
Thank
ever
you.
go into print? You think once it's all said and done? Do you think you can
Oh
get
yeah.
Davey to
Like,
reformat it?
oh yeah, definitely. We've talked about this. I mean, especially if we get Davy's been around longer, so one of the questions you asked earlier. So he hasn't done any comics. I mean, he had done a little but he never really did anything until now, and now he has also a little side project, which I guess I should promote that real quick. So on Webtoons, there's a comic called Ungentlemanly, and that's Davies all on his own. So that's like a little side project. But anyways, before he did comics, Davey did artwork for video, like board games. So that's where his background comes from, and is creating. And like one of the problems, or one of the things I remember he shared with me was that like he creates these characters and these stories, and he wanted to do for these board games, but a lot of the people that would commission him or he'd work with, like, they didn't want to have all that lore or this whole background, and they don't like the story, because when you're creating like characters and whatnot for a board game, or even the same probably with a video game, you want to leave more open so people can kind of create their own stories or their own ideas or fill in, or like they're going to be one of those characters. So he transitioned to comics because he always had this urge to, he wanted to have more of a story behind these people or these characters or creatures, whatever that he was drawing, and these worlds. Like, he wanted to tell a story, essentially. So that's why he got into comics, and he's loving it. But yeah, so.
Gotcha, man. Oh, that's awesome. Oh, this is great stuff. This is great stuff. I'm so excited to see what comes out tomorrow and in the future. I'm thinking here once, not too long from now, I definitely want to do a follow up. This will not be our last time chatting. That's for.
I love that. Thank you, man. And this opportunity is huge. We feel honored. It's awesome to meet somebody, like, we were complete strangers before this, and to hear your words, and it means a lot. And it just, I hope we can get this comic out to more people, and I hope they feel the same way. And thank you so much.
Yeah, well, comics is all about bringing people together, man. Here we are. I think it's safe to say we got a new friendship here, man. I'm curious to see where you guys go, and I mean, I'm definitely going to be following you from here on out, and it's all because of a comic book. I could babble on and on about how brilliant comic books are, but I think I'm going to end it at that because the drink is it's empty at this point. So.
Mine
Oh,
is too.
man.
It's definitely time for a refill. On that note too, I do want to say again, I really like what you guys are doing with your podcast. I like the combination of bringing in beer and whatnot with it, and sharing a drink together and talking about it. I hadn't listened to your guys' podcast before, and obviously I listened to it starting when you guys featured us, and I actually you guys didn't talk about our comic until the end of that podcast. So I started from the beginning. I just wanted to listen and hear kind of and get a feel for what it's about, and you guys definitely you read a lot and you pay attention to a lot, and you guys like can also articulate your words, but you also understand a lot about what goes into making comics. And that was that was one of the reasons it felt even more of an honor when you guys were enjoying and appreciating our art. Because I'm like, I mean, you guys were talking about and following, I mean, these Marvel, these DC, and other like really big name, big comics that you're really into and you enjoy the hell out of. And so like to find something like us and appreciate it just as much, or as well, like that was really awesome.
Oh, brother, I'm gonna tell you right now, I love comics, man. I don't. If it's from the West, I'm all about it. I'm gonna give it. It doesn't have to be Marvel or DC. You don't have to be a part of a super team. Like some of my favorite books are, indie comics. And I have a history with webtoons. Like I've been Davey before, not nearly as talented, that's for fucking sure.
Me neither, man.
I understand the grind, man, especially when it comes to webtoons. And the fact that you guys have consistently put stuff out and it's just consistently improving, it's stuff that needs to be talked about. Like I can't, I don't think I've praised any review that we've done so far as much as yours. Not saying that everything, not to shit on any other review we've done, because I've liked everything I've reviewed, but I truly love this, man. And I'm glad that you appreciate what we're all about. Our big thing is, we want to be positive. Like, if we don't have anything nice to say, we're not going to talk about it. So it just goes like, if we didn't like your book, we wouldn't shit on it. We would have just said pass, is what it comes down to. Because we obviously we have our critiques and everything on the podcast, but we are not about to take money out of a creator's pocket. Like, we're not going to try to influence someone to not give something a shot. Like, that's the deal. Is everybody deserves a shot. Because even if I don't like it, that I guarantee somebody else out there, it's their favorite, no matter what it is. Like, even Suicide Squad, somebody out there, it's their favorite movie. As bad as it is, it's their favorite movie. So there's no reason to, like, totally shit on it to the point where you're trying to convince somebody that it's no good. And that was kind of my influence on starting the podcast. And, this right here, with this being one of the, I think it was the second indie we reviewed, it was just goes to show, I was like, oh man, everyone's going to think that we just, like, have nothing bad to say about anything. I was like, could somebody send me some shit for once?
What? That's a great point that you bring up, though, and that means a lot. Like, it's awesome that you guys aren't gonna try and build a name for yourself by shitting on things, which is a lot. There's a lot of people out there that love to go for that cheap blow, cause some drama, and use that as a way to then push themselves up or whatever. I like that you guys don't want to do that. But number two, and this is also just as important, you guys aren't going to, I don't know, you're not going to talk up something or pretend to like things that you don't like either. So I like the whole, if you have nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all. But obviously if you enjoy something, let people know and let them know why. Like, and so I hope that you guys as well, like, have a lot of great success and only grow from there, because that's a model that more critics or whatever you want to, like, we need more of that, like media and like critics or anything like that. These mediums are very important just as well for art. Not everybody's a creator and not everybody needs to be creating. And also, just because you are a critic or whatever, doesn't mean that you're not a creator too. You can have that. But point is, like, we do need more of that. There's a lot of just bad media and bad critics out there, and people that, they make a living off of, like, giving bad reviews or just shitting on things. And I don't know. I hope that you guys find more success, and also that it also helps usher in more people that have that same approach and that same model, because we don't need to grow by shitting on each other and bringing people down. Like, let's bring each other up and let's help push for more.
For sure. It's like so many times, like, oh, I love comics. Well, what do you love? Well, I hate this. Like, what? What? I don't think you love comics. I think you just love to talk shit about comics is what it comes down to. I don't know, man. I found that to be, I don't know. But it's not about stroking me, man. And I appreciate that you respect what we do. That's for damn sure. But this is all about the wolf and me, man. This is amazing creativity right here, and I can't wait to see you guys grow. We're gonna post all the links and all that to where you need to go, the Patreon, the Webtoons link, all that good stuff. Is there anywhere else that they need to go to find you? Is there?
No, the Facebook, the Patreon, and Webtoons. Webtoons being the main one. Like, if you want to support us, if you don't have any money to throw or anything, that's fine. Like, the main thing is if you just go and view us on Webtoons, if you make an account, you can link your Facebook or whatever, so it's really easy.
2 seconds. It's 2 fucking seconds, seriously.
Just like, comment, share it. Just keep sharing this. The more people it reaches, the better. That's all we need, because if we get enough people or we get enough attention, Webtoons will feature us, and if you're featured by Webtoons, like, they take care of you. And it's like, so that means the world to us. So if you don't, I understand, like, I'm not asking for people to throw money at us that they don't have or whatever. That's totally fine. Like, the best thing you can really do right now, and this comic just needs exposure, more exposure. So go to Webtoons, like, comment, and share. That's like the best way you can support us right now, and Seriously. It means a lot. It goes a long way.
Hell yeah, man. Yeah, you guys could pay these guys without taking any money out of your pocket. Like, that's, you don't, it's not very often a creator's given that opportunity to say, hey, your fans, like, just, all you have to do is look like you would normally do and tell a friend and follow us, and yeah, someone else will pay us. You don't even have to. It's cool.
And yeah, and the thing is too, is I will say is, I know some people, like, it's with a lot of entertainment these days. I know you're worried that, like, to invest your time into a story and then they're gonna that it lets you down. It starts to just go to crap. Like, we have this thing mapped out. We're never going to be in a situation even if we pick up our pace or whatever, and we're able to pick up the pace on how much we're churning out our content. We're never going to be in a situation where this story is being thought of on the spot, week by week or whatever. Like, even though it comes out weekly, nothing's going to be rushed. Like, we put a lot of thought into creating this, and we want to, like, it's only going to get better. And if you're coming along for this ride and following the story as the author of it, like, I'm not going to, I'm not going to let you down. Like, I promise you it's worth the ride, and there's going to be a lot of fun, like, turns and twists. And nothing is cheap. Nothing is, like, rushed or forced. Like, I've spent a lot of time studying entertainment, whether it's, comics, books, and movies, and I know what I like and, and what works and what doesn't. And I definitely, I'm being very smart about the way that this story is being shared and told. Like, it's worth the wait. Yeah, it's just worth the read, and it's worth coming along for this journey.
Fuck yeah, man. I totally agree. I mean, you don't need to convince me, obviously. But, yeah, no, at this point, I think there'd be no reason to not take our word for it. And Justin as well, if he were here, he'd be gushing just as much. He really did love this. It's kind of a bummer Justin couldn't be here. He was really bummed that he couldn't talk, but just couldn't. The power, man, the power.
Yeah, I do. That's even more of a reason, I guess, for us to do a follow-up. And because I would definitely like to hear from him as well, and yeah, and also too, at some point, like, we need to get Davey in here, man. Like, Davey's an awesome person, and I feel honored to be working with him. He's taught me a lot, and I definitely would love for him to come in and get involved in these conversations as well.
Oh, dude, I can't wait to pick his brain, man. Yeah, no, the next come around needs to be 4 people deep, man. We got to double up. This is gonna be fun. And just imagine all the amazing new shit we got to talk about. The next one's going to be spoiler ridden. Fuck it.
Let's do it. Yeah. Let's do it.
Well, brother, I truly appreciate you taking. Oh man, we had a whole over an hour to talk about a single comic. Like, that's dope, man. That's dope. I was thinking, like, 20 or 30 minutes of content maybe. Nah, that's dope. Sweet. So you guys are totally going to get your bang for your buck, which is free because we're a free podcast. But thank you for listening. Once again, Sean Mullen, Davey Wagnerwalk, half of the creator of The Wolf and Me. Please go to Webtoons and Patreon and Facebook. Follow all their stuff. We'll link a Twitter account too. And yeah, well, fuckers, you enjoy your evening. If you're getting ready to get snowed on, don't go outside. It's bad. It's really, really bad March snow. But yeah, everybody, cheers, and read responsibly.